welcome to the Daily with Haley. Of course, I'm your host, Haley, and I look forward to you tuning in today to get your daily dose of encouragement.
Hi, friends. I am so excited for you guys to tune in today. This episode is extremely special to me. I have Miss Jenny Lawson here, and she is going to share a little bit about herself. But before she does, I just wanted to say how cool this was. She was actually one of my teachers, and so this is a big honor in several different ways. So I'm going to let her introduce herself, but just thank you, Jenny, for joining today. I'm so excited to hear what God laid on your heart to share.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jenny. As Haley said, I was her teacher, and I'm so proud of her, and I'm so excited to be on this podcast today. I'm going to talk a little bit about just my journey as someone who's been through a lot of struggles health-wise, and kind of how God put me where I am today. So I'm excited to share that with you.
Yes, awesome. All right, Jenny. Well, the first thing that I'll ask is just kind of during your battle with cancer. She had ovarian cancer, and she has overcame that. Woohoo! That's so awesome. So during that, what do you think was the most challenging part for you?
I think, overall, anyone who's ever had any kind of bout with cancer or even a scare of cancer, a big part of it is the mental part that comes with it, that you're always, that fear creeping in. You're always scared of what's the next test result going to be? What is going to happen? Is it going to spread? Am I going to go into remission? Is it going to get worse? Am I going to be terminal? I mean, you worry about all of these things because everyone knows cancer is just such a, it's that big demon that nobody wants to hear the C word, right? So I think the mental battle was a huge part for me, and it really allowed me to let my faith get stronger, because I realized I'm not big enough to take on cancer by myself. I need God, and I always knew I needed God, but He really showed me in a lot of ways that I did not need to try to fight that battle by myself. I didn't need to let the mental part of it. All I needed to do was physically, do the things that I needed to do to keep my body healthy and fighting, and He would take care of the rest. And He really took on that mental burden for me. I've actually been fighting it for over 16 years now. I was first diagnosed when I was in my early 20s, and this past bout was my worst because I did have to go through chemotherapy and lose my hair and go through all the treatment. But it was my third occurrence, so it really mentally it was a lot harder for me, because who I was before, whenever I'd gone through it, I had all that mental load and the scaredness and everything on the inside. But once you're outside, you look like a cancer patient. You get a lot more attention for that. Everybody knows you have cancer. Everybody's worried about you. There was just, for me, that was a lot to be someone who is kind of in a public place, that a lot of people follow me because of, my line of work. I own a boutique and I have an online presence. And so in a way, it was great because I had this whole community rallying behind me. I also was a school teacher still, so I had my school behind me. But then also I felt this oh, I don't want to get worse. I don't want anyone to mourn over me or anything like that. So I felt just in a lot of ways, God really was you don't have to worry about all of these things. You're trying to solve all of it on your own, and you don't need to. You can just hand it over to me. And that's what I really did, and that got me through a lot of tough times.
That is awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And I definitely can understand the mental portion, especially when you are going through that. I can only imagine. So just again, thank you for sharing that. And I heard you say with losing your hair, I'm sure that was a big internal, just because it was almost like a reminder essentially every day, right? That you were still going through that. So what kind of helped you get through that? I know I followed your journey, so I saw y'all had always the fun wigs, all of that. So what would you say kind of helped you the most navigate that piece of it?
Gosh, it was a very hard part for me, because I am in the beauty and fashion industry. So to be in that industry and feel I was the face of my business, and for me to do that and have to face all of that without looking like myself or feeling like myself. Like, not only did I lose my hair, but like the chemo, it made me gain weight. I was swollen. I just didn't look healthy. And I just kept showing up anyways. My community, like I said, my girls that shop with me, like some of them are just more like family, and they were encouraged me during the time. And I would, pose with my wigs or, whenever, and I would just kind of have fun with it. And I just tried to make the best of it. And I really feel like through that, I was able to show a lot of people, like, you can still make it through whatever, comes your way. You can have a good attitude about it. So many people have reached out to me since then and said, I just got a diagnosis and I'm going through cancer now. And watching you go through all that was such an inspiration. And I don't say any of that to brag on myself, because, I couldn't have done any of it on my own without God allowing me to be in that position. But I do feel like He put me in that place where I can be kind of the face of adversity and, trying to go through something like that in a very public way, because a lot of people were looking at me like, how is she handling it? And I felt like He allowed me to let my light shine through that a little bit. And I didn't even realize it as much at the time, because I was just trying to like get through it. But afterward, now that I'm almost 2 years in remission and I'm healthy, and people still every day. Yeah. And they're like, so-and-so just found out something, and I told them they need to go follow you or whatever. Or they'll message me and they'll say like, I have a doctor's appointment coming up. Can you pray for me? And I just feel so blessed to be in that position where I can, have any kind of small part in helping somebody else get through that.
Yeah. And that's so awesome, because I feel like, so many people go through it and they don't, they don't kind of still show up. And regardless of what we're going through, I feel like that is a big piece. I'm so glad that you said that, is showing up, because it is such a major transition. And I have not experienced what you have gone through, but I had a little bit of the mental aspect of the physical appearance. And so I can only imagine the strength and the willingness that it took you to show up every day. So I truly, truly commend you for that. And it's amazing to hear that, when we put our trust in God and we allow Him to kind of show up through us, that it's obviously not in our strength, but in His. And so that's just really awesome. And I can definitely testify that I followed your journey, and it was seriously incredible. Like, to watch you post, I mean, even when you you posted without the wig, like, you just were so raw. And I just think that's so awesome that, God could use you for that vessel. And it just goes to show that when we trust in Him, it's just so awesome to see what He can do. So, yeah. So how do you think, so I know you have said that you really were able to connect with God and to really allow Him to kind of shine through you. But was there anything different that changed, like maybe in your prayer life or like your daily, maybe routine? Was there a certain scripture, or was there a certain book, or, what did that look like for you?
Well, I definitely dug in a lot more. Like, I will be the first one to say I am guilty of not reading my Bible like I should. Like, it's always one of those things that I'm like, I've got to get better. I've got to make sure I do this every day. And the time off and away from everything, I mean, I couldn't do a whole lot at times, because I was, laying there getting like an infusion for however many hours and stuff like that. So I really spent that time in like prayer and reflection, reading my devotions and just different things. I will say that the song that got me through a lot of things was Fires. And you probably saw me post about that. I always, I had this shirt that I had done a photo shoot in, and it said, He will walk you through the fire. And later on, I mean, I took that picture probably like 3 years prior to this whole battle. And then later on, that song came out, and I was just getting in my car one day, and I was in a really scared place, I feel like. And I was having one of those days where it was like the fear was creeping in, and I just turned on my radio in my car, and that song was the first time I'd ever heard it. And I just instantly like broke down in tears, and I started listening to it. And I was like, wow, like I felt God speak to me and say, like, I have walked you through this fire before, you beat this twice, and we're going to get through it again. Like, I just felt it in my, my heart. I felt a peace. I just felt completely that was my confirmation that like, I can get through this. And it was so funny. I guess not funny. It was, it was God. One of my friends texted me like right after that. And she goes, have you heard the song? And she sent me a YouTube link to the song. And I was like, you have got to be kidding me. Like, I literally just heard the song for the first time. And she goes, I heard it and I just thought of you instantly. And it was just such a cool moment. And then I was kind of like, I wanted to make a post about it because, you know, that's kind of what I did. I, like you said, I shared my journey. And I was going through looking for a picture to put with my post. And I was like, oh, that shirt that I have. And it all just kind of clicked together. And I was like, wow, like 3 years before this, like I had done this photo shoot with this shirt on that said the same thing. And then this song, and that just kind of became like my anthem, where like, he's walked me through fire, you know, shielded me from the flames. And like, you know, I can go through anything with Jesus. And that was absolutely what, you know, got me through so many times. We have, some local singers who came to our church and they learned the song and they sang it at our church. I mean, there's just so many cool things that happened with it. That was definitely like a big part of it for me, I feel like.
Wow. That is so cool. I recently had an experience where God kind of, with this podcast, kind of showed up with confirmation. And it's so funny because it just makes me just so happy, like when he does stuff like that. And it's just so awesome that he orchestrates it like 3 years before. And then, you know, most people would say, oh, it was just a shirt. But like, no, totally not. That is so awesome. And then, you know, oh my gosh, it just makes me so happy when God does stuff like that. I could geek out about it literally all day long. Awesome. So yeah. So I wanted to jump into and just chat a little bit about your beautiful girl. And so I am assuming that maybe through this, were you not able to conceive?
Yeah. So the second occurrence I had, so let me back up. The first time I was diagnosed, I was, like I said, very young, 20s. It occurred in one of my ovaries, and they removed that ovary, but saved my other, left like my reproductive system intact, you know, minus that ovary. So I always thought I would be able to have kids, and that was the whole reasoning for saving it. And fast forward 11 years later, I really, you know, hadn't put an emphasis on, I guess, like the whole thinking about kids and stuff until I met my husband. And we did like meet, like we were older, you know, so when we got married, we knew like we were ready to start a family, and we started trying. And when we started trying, we were having trouble. So I saw my specialist, and she, you know, gave us some fertility stuff, and we did like that whole thing. And we didn't do IVF, but we tried some other things. And it turned out that one of those medicines that I was taking for that, it triggered my tumor to come back, which was not any fault of the doctors or anything like that. It's just something that happened. So when that happened, I ended up having to have a total hysterectomy because it had come back and it had occurred in different places. And basically I was told, you know, that we can't save it. There's just no way. It's your health or, you know, saving your reproductive organs. And so, of course, I had to choose my health. And that was really, really difficult for me. You know, my husband and I were newlyweds. We'd only been married about a year. And not only was I having like this major surgery and having to go through like this cancer diagnosis again, but then also like the dream of having our own children kind of, you know, we had to deal with that. We had to grieve that loss. And that was really difficult for us. We both had to go through a kind of a period, like I said, of grieving, and it was very hard for a while. So when we finally, like I was recovered physically and we kind of made our way through that, we were just kind of like, well, what do we do now? Because we still want to be parents, and we just really weren't sure the way that we wanted to go. I had family members who were adopted, and so I kind of like already, my heart was kind of open to that situation. But my husband was unsure. Like, I guess he thought like, and I think this is very normal for men to think like, can I love a child that's not my own like it's my own child? I mean, even for women, I feel like that's a very real fear, is that you think like, well, if they're not biologically mine, like, will I feel the same about them as a biological child? And I say that not in like, I know that makes it sound bad, but I don't mean not in that way, but it's just a real fear. So anyways, so God orchestrated this in my life too, that he moved me. I was teaching at high school level, and I got moved to 4th grade. And that was the youngest grade I'd ever taught. And whenever I was teaching that grade, I ended up with 3 different students in my class, and we had very small classes. I know I'm really far away from you, but Pamlico was a small school. I feel like in the school where I teach in Ohio, it was very small like that, very tight-knit community, very small. You knew pretty much everyone. I had 3 different kids move in who were new, and they were all in the foster care system, which was a huge, I mean, I had like 16 kids in my class, and 3 of them were in foster care. So that was a lot. And I guess in like 3 classes, I guess, not out of 16, but, sorry, you can edit that part.
You're totally fine.
I messed that all up. I had 3 different classes, but out of my 3 classes, 3 of them were in foster care. Okay. So anyways, I had these children who were in foster care, and they really started to tell me a lot about like what they were going through. I got really close with these children over the course of the year, and I really just started to like want to know more about the foster care system through my class, because I felt this really strong bond. I mean, I have always been, I think most teachers do, you get really close with your students. You feel like they're your own. And it just broke my heart to see what these kids were going through with like getting moved from one foster home to another and different things. And I was like, like, I think I want to be part of the, solution to this. And so I brought it up to my husband, and I was like, kind of like, what do you think about this? And he's like, I don't know. Like, we'll pray about it. We'll see. He was not, I'm always the one who was like jump, like both feet in. I think it's kind of more like rational and like logical. Like, we should probably just think about this for a little while. Whereas I would like come home with the kid and this, like, here,
I understand.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, but I'm like, my friends always used to make jokes. She's like, you just want to take all the kids home. And I'm like, yes, I do. But so one of my really good friends, she taught in the class next to me. One day we were just sitting at lunch, and we were talking about like different kids and different things. And she's like, I've been thinking like, maybe I think I want to become a foster parent. And she starts telling me about how her and her husband, they'd been married for years, and they'd been trying to conceive, and they hadn't had any luck with it. And like, I didn't know that part of her. Like, we were friends, but we weren't like, the kind of friends that like I didn't know her personal struggles or anything. And she just really opened up to me, and she said, we've been trying to have a baby for years, and God is showing me like, I think I'm supposed to be a foster parent. And I was like, shut up. Like, I have been thinking of the same thing. And so we start talking about it, and we go on, like, some months pass. And one day she comes in, she's like, hey, like, Jenny, they're doing foster care training at this local agency next month. Do you and Noah want to come and sign up and take classes with me and my husband? And I was like, I mean, I guess it can't hurt to go ahead and get trained and take the classes. Like, we had talked about it. So we're like, yeah, we'll do it. We did it. We got trained in a weekend. We went through our home study. We went through all that. Like, we were in now. We're like, okay, we're going to be foster parents. Like, you think we're prepared. And we actually got our first call like a week after we got licensed. And it was for two girls, and they were sisters. And I was like, okay, like, let me call, my husband. And we prayed about it. We talked about it. And I was like, okay, like, let's do it. And they said, okay, well, you need to pick them up tonight. And I was like, oh gosh, okay, how old are they? They're 3 and 4. Okay, well, we don't have car seats. We don't have anything. Like, we thought we were going to get a baby. We had a crib, and we had baby stuff. And we're like, okay, we need to go. Like, we need some time. So we went to Walmart. We're like getting all this stuff, and we're calling everybody. We're like, we need sippy cups. We need, we need this, we need that. And we're like, we don't have any clothes. We don't have anything. So anyways, we went and picked them up, and I just instantly, we were just in love with them. The sweetest little things. And we thought, I kept saying, like, you need to make sure that you don't get so attached, because, like, it was supposed to be a 6-week placement. Long story short, it ended up being permanent. Like, we had them for almost 2 years, and then they brought up adoption just, and we adopted them, and they're Lawsons now, and we just we love them so much, and they fit right into our family. It's just, I could probably do 10 episodes telling you all the things that God did to bring that to happen. During COVID and everything else, like, we got them in February, and the whole COVID lockdown happened in March. So,
oh my gosh,
different story, but it was very trying at times, but we've been through so much together. We're so thankful for them.
that is awesome. Yeah, and I know, like, following you on Facebook and stuff, that for a while there you couldn't post them, right? Like, you had to cover up their face and all of that.
Yeah, we were very limited when we didn't have like the custody rights.
Yeah,
that we couldn't show very much of them. So we would kind of show glimpses, because especially during COVID, like, our friends and family couldn't come around. So they're like, hey, like, you have these 2 new family members. We want to keep up with them, but I couldn't I can only share so much. And we, their birth parents were local, so we wanted to make sure that we were, respectful of that,
Yeah.
and what they were going through. But it all worked out, how it was supposed to.
Yeah. That is so awesome. And they're so cute. So cute. Oh my God. Yes. And I will put in the comments and everything too, so people have all of your links to social media and they can see your girls. And you guys, her girls are not following, are modeling the kids' clothes. And they are just seriously the cutest things ever. And I remember like when you first started posting them, I was like, oh my gosh, I hope they adopt them because I want to see their cute little faces. And then we're saying like, oh my gosh, they look so cute. So yeah, that's so ironic because I literally remember like saying that, like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see, how cute they are. And so it's just so amazing that, God did all of that. And even like like you were saying, your coworker, like it's just so amazing how all of this comes together because, I feel like too and I'm sure you can attest to this, is like, he probably put you guys together as a support for each other, because you were both navigating that journey together essentially for the first time because she hadn't adopted either, right?
Correct. And it actually, when we first got the placement, they were a sibling set of 4. And what they had asked when we got called was, do you want to take 2 of the kids and then your friend, my coworker, take the other? And so they tried to keep the 4 together. But one of the siblings, he had a lot of medical issues and just, he needed more of like a therapeutic home. So it didn't work out that way, but it absolutely she was there for us through a lot of things. And then we were there. I was actually with her when she got the call for her little girl who she has now. And she's, almost 3 years old and she is just beautiful. They brought her home from the hospital. And it's been really good for us to be together. We've been friends through all of it. We've been very supportive of each other. There's been a lot of days we cried to each other about different things because it is very hard when you're going through like the court system and when you are like just trying to have the best interest for these kids, but everything's not always set up in the best interest of the kids when you're down, like the system and all of that. And it can be very difficult. And COVID added a whole new layer of difficulty to all of it because it was unprecedented. Like the way that we did visits, the way that they did the court hearings, like everything was just, it had never happened before. So no one knew how to navigate that. So there were a lot of times that my coworker and I, we really had to go to each other for support and we're still really good friends. I don't work there at the school anymore, but we still actually just saw her the other day. She brought her little girl in and our girls play together. And it's really, really great to have somebody that I knew God put her in my life for that reason. And it was funny because we had worked together at the high school level, like before I was in 8th grade. She was my co-teacher, like across the hall from me in 8th grade, and she moved to the elementary. And then when they moved to elementary, they put me in the classroom right beside her. So we were back together again. So I'm like, don't tell me that was not all by design, that we, ended up right beside each other. Like
that is just
like, absolutely, right?
That is just awesome. I mean, that is just crazy. Well, Jenny, oh my gosh, thank you. I mean, seriously, this is so awesome. Like, just your positivity and just is all the good things that you shared. It's just so encouraging to hear, like, the things you've been through and how you've overcome them. And just to see, like, it kind of gives me, I mean, not kind of, it does give me hope too. Like, God orchestrates everything. And so if we just stand firm in his plan, even when we can't see it, he's orchestrating all of that. And so, I mean, it's just so, so awesome. So we'll wrap up by just is there, if there was one piece of encouragement or advice that you could share, like what do you think that would be?
Yeah, I think you actually just kind of hit on it. It's like I always have loved the saying or the verse about like just be still and wait. And like you said, even when you don't know that God is working, like he's always working things together for our good, even when we don't see it. And I am one of the most impatient people in the world. I feel like I said, like I am like a jump in both feet. I want things to happen like yesterday. Like waiting is very hard for me, but God has just taught me to be content in that season of waiting. And you not like I have really, there's been a lot of situations like when we were trying to conceive, when we wanted to start a family, when we were waiting to adopt, like we have just over and over, like we've had to go through the waiting process. And, I feel like my whole life is like a series of waiting for test results, waiting, to get through whatever. But in all of it, God has proved He's faithful over and over again. And when I look back and I look back at like this whole testimony of my life, and I just see all the ways that He was working behind the scenes, there is no doubt to me that everything is by His design, and it's not in our time, it's in His time. And if I could tell anyone that who's waiting, or if you're in a season of just you're confused or you're unsure what your next step is, stop trying to figure everything out for yourself and just be still and let Him, work that out for you. Let Him take that mental load for you. You don't have to fight everything on your own. Like that's what He's there for. Just hand it over to Him and let Him move. So that would be my advice to anyone.
Yes, and that's so good. So good. Well, I definitely think we're going to have to do a sequel because, wow, God's really got some good stuff in you there, my friend. I mean, really and truly, thank you again so much for just sharing. I know that it takes vulnerability to share your testimony and just to share all that God's done and the strength that He's kind of put in you to share, and just to kind of watch your face light up as you talk about your girls, and just all of God's goodness is just seriously one of the most just reassuring things to my heart. Like, it just makes me just want to just smile all day long. So thank you for joining me along my journey. I pray that I will continue to bless you and your family. And guys, I will post again all of her stuff in the comments. So please feel free to check that out. There's also going to be a special discount code because, as I mentioned, she has a boutique. So it's also for she does adults, she does kids, she has swimwear, and it's seriously really great quality, you guys. I have a lot of it, and it's so cute. And as she mentioned, it's like she was saying, the diversity. There's all kinds of sizes, so don't worry about that. There is something for everybody. So go check it out. She has a 10% discount code for just for our listeners, and it is going to be daily. So I'll also put that in the comments. And so, you guys, if you have any questions for Jenny or myself, please let us know. Keep Jenny and her wonderful family in your prayers as they continue to navigate their journey. So I love you guys so much, and I really appreciate your time today and listening to this wonderful woman of God. I love you guys so much. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.